Hi, Nina.
Hey, Max.
What time is it?
It's coaching time.
Let's do it. Perfect. Hello, Peter, and welcome to Generation Coaching. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today for a hopeful, very insightful conversation. Before we get started, I would like to introduce you. You're a global executive speaker, TEDx expert, and you really focus on the psychology of storytelling and persuasion. So we're really interested in going into this. Me personally, super interested in storytelling. I'll dive a little bit deeper into that later on. But yeah, maybe a few words from your side. What do we need to know about Peter when he started out as a public speaker, and the person you are now as a, let's call it, global executive speaker coach?
What do you need to know? Probably nothing. You don't need. No one really needs to know anything. However, because of the podcast and because we got listeners and we got probably people that are intrigued to, or a little bit at least curious to hear how this episode unfolds, I'll share a few things about who I am and where I've been and how I've got here. Very short, sharp and crisp, compact way of doing that. So I originally was at art college, graphic design, and then I realized this isn't where I wanted to be. I started to travel, which gave me a lot of confidence, gave me a lot of ideas. It helped me kind of observe what's around me. And then one of those roles I was in terms of where I was traveling, I worked for a big travel company, and within that role, a lot of what I was doing was presenting. So presenting holiday resorts, presenting all the great stuff people can get up to, all the good things people can do while they're on holiday, and most of that is emotion, right? So sharing these presentations day in, not day in, day out, but week in, week out, the same presentation, 20, 30 minutes, always about how people can do things, and essentially selling, right? Trying to get people to sell. And in those days, essentially it was, well, probably similar to these days in many roles as well. If I didn't sell anything, I didn't get anything, right? So no money in my pocket at the end of the month if people didn't feel like they wanted to buy from me, trust me, hear what I had to say, actually made them, captivated them and got them to actually sign on the dotted line and buy one of the many trips, let's say. So some weeks, sometimes it worked really well. Sometimes it didn't work well at all. I found that really strange because it was the same presentation. I'm saying the same things, more or less. The same content, more or less. But I realized that certain things I was doing, my behavior, how I was feeling about myself, how I sounded, the tone of my voice, the movement, the stories I started to tell, the emotions that I started to bring in, started to change the way people felt about who they're listening to, what they're listening to, and it made them react differently. So fast forward to today, so all those years later, at the beginning when I did those presentations starting off, it was mainly about how I felt about presenting and delivering a good presentation. So when we think about good presentations, when we think about good public speaking, what do we think about? Often we think about confidence. We think about how somebody sounds. What we look at visually, appearance. Is it good? Is it not going to stop us from liking or trusting that person? Right. So then I was thinking mainly all about that. But really, over the years and through my career as a speaker coach, helping people on TEDx stages, helping startup founders to really help investors, persuade investors to invest in them, the story and the content and how you make people feel and how you connect with your audience is far more important than the delivery. Delivery is on the outside, and it is important because when you're confident, that's appealing, right? It's attractive. When you've got a voice that sounds good, it creates interest. But in today it's as you know, TikTok, it's not about attention grabbing, it's about interest grabbing, right?
Yeah.
So we have to gain people's interest far more than gaining people's attention. Gaining attention is easy. Gaining attention is a lot easier than gaining interest, right? We can gain attention through many things, through, as I say, through what people see, things that are moving on screen, how we sound. But at the end of the day, connecting and having that, for example, using stories, using the words you say, the certain techniques you can use to connect, that is far more important. So today, my coaching game today, if we can call it that, is far more focused on that. And then once we have that, we work out how to deliver those messages in the right way. So really, messages are number one, and then how you deliver those messages is the second part, rather than the other way round, which is, I imagine, I know at the beginning of my career, what I saw and what I heard from other presenters, that was what I was trying to imitate, right? So it's far more about the messages than how you deliver your messages.
Interesting. I had a question immediately on the back of that, because what I thought about when I think about storytelling, when we're with our friends at a restaurant, at a pub, or even just at home sitting around, all we do is tell each other stories, and we gain the other person's interest, right? As soon as we get into the business world, we get tight and we worry about, like, are we getting the right message across? But we end up actually not telling stories, we're sharing facts. Why do you think that is the case? Why are we so playful in our private environments, in our private life with friends?
So when let's say we're having a coffee with somebody and we're telling somebody about something that happened to us the day before, whatever it is, that, we can call it gossip, we can call it rumors, we can call it whatever we can call it. People are always intrigued, right? Because emotion, that's what gains attention. So anything to do with emotion, like I don't know, just an example, a typical women's magazine which has got celebrities that are pregnant or getting divorced or whatever it is. These are just like emotions, because I don't, but people who read those magazines probably think to themselves, if they're in that position, what would they do? How would they feel? So it's all about emotion. So when we're having a chat with our friend, having a coffee about what's happened to us in the past or the day before, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? This is all emotion, right? And that gains attention. But it doesn't usually have an impact. It doesn't have a final outcome, right? So in business, we don't necessarily tell as many stories or bring in that emotion as much as we could, and we focus on the logistic side. So the logistic side of our brains, all about those figures, about the things that back up credibility, things that back up facts, that back up ideas that help us to be persuaded, right? But at the end of the day, if we bring in the emotional side, the storytelling side, helping us to kind of feel more, and then through that feeling we have a message, and then we can react on that message. This is really the essence of what I do in terms of working with clients, business clients, to help people persuade, but more so helping people to take action. If we take, let's say a TEDx talk.
Yeah.
So TEDx talks, great, right? So emotional, people feel good. Well, not necessarily always good after them, but they like to hear what they hear, right? But there's not often an action to be taken at the end. It's more about getting people to feel something, think about something, and then maybe react on those emotions, right? In business presentations, it's far more about, when you're presenting something or pitching something, it's getting people to understand those emotions, to feel those emotions, but it's completely irrelevant if there's no action. So a pitch can be, somebody doing a pitch, for example, can be a founder doing a startup pitch, can be really persuasive, really confident, sounds good, looks good. Stories are lovely, make you laugh, make you smile. However, if that isn't relevant to a point or a message to get people to start a conversation with you afterwards, right? To think about potentially this could be something worth investigating from a point of view of an investor, then it's all irrelevant. So we need not just the emotional side, which is what gossip is about, which is telling stories to our friends, to think, events that have happened in the past, like something that happened to me this morning. I could tell you something funny that happened. It's funny, it's good, and it makes us laugh and it connects us, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. But if there isn't a message through that in business, it's irrelevant. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, and I thought about that too. You're right. It's the action points. You're just sharing a story that people connect with you, like on an emotional level. You connect with a person, but there's no sales happening. There's no persuasion of someone taking action afterwards. Whereas in a sales pitch, you're telling a story because you want that person to then take action or invest in your business or buy your product or your service. Yeah,
completely.
And that's probably also where we get scared, because there's a consequence.
There's pressure, right? There's pressure. There's we there's more pressure to deliver. So yeah, you're right. I mean, but with stories and with that emotion and with the right message, you can really get people to remember you, because stories help us to remember more. They can help us to connect more. They can actually help us in so many different ways. They can bring up credibility. They can bring up credibility of your product, your service, but more so about the emotions and the feelings of the customers or the clients, what they felt in terms of your product or service, right? In terms of the value that has brought to them through a story, right?
Yeah. Peter, I would love to understand a bit more about the storytelling in terms of how you integrate it for startups you work with. Like, what is kind of the process when you coach them? Can you guide us a little bit through, the journey? Like, let's say someone comes to you and is like, I have this amazing product, service, I want to put out into the world, but I don't know what my story is, because I think I don't have a story, even though everyone has a story. But how do you kind of coach them through this kind of journey in order to also make sales at the end?
Well, there's a lot of, when you say that, the first thing that comes to mind is there's a lot of me listening, and there's a lot of them talking. It's really trying to figure out the answer to the main question is, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
How did you come up with that idea? So you could have a great idea, sounds good, looks good, feels good. Probably somewhere on the planet there's somebody else doing exactly the same thing or something very, very similar. But so I really need to know, I'd ask, so how did you come up with this? What drove you to this idea? How are you within this startup? Why are you doing this? And so the answers that I get from that question really are the kind of key areas which we focus on, and we use to gain the credibility of our listeners, to gain the credibility, to give credibility of who they are. And also it often shows the audience that you are knowledgeable in this area, or potentially not that knowledgeable, depends. but if you can show why you're doing something, or the experience you have, certainly experience you have with the problem. So the pain point, the problem, if you can show that you've really experienced this, or you really understand it, or you really know what it feels like to be in that position, you then have, you almost have a step, you have little steps, you have a step up from someone else that's come up with the same idea, but they're just doing it because they've seen it online or something, right? So I'll give you a quick example. So there was a gentleman I was working with. He was from, I think it's Czech Republic, he was only very young, so he looked young, sounded young. Well, I say young, I mean, so like, you know, we're talking like 18, 19 years old, right?
Okay.
So that is young. He thought, yeah, that's young. So his idea was essentially a kind of digital eye test, right? So opticians, just an idea that made things really simple for people to come into, or they could do it at home. I think it was all online. They could do it on an app as well. Everything done. They didn't have to come into an optician, right? They didn't have to physically come in and have an appointment and then have a chat and then go back home and then come back again, blah, 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 right? So he had great idea, came up with everything, all good, right? But all through his startup pitch, which I saw originally beforehand, before we started working together, I kept asking myself, okay, well, that's cool, but you're young, you look 18, 19. What gives you the audacity to ask an investor for money for an idea from someone that doesn't seem to have any kind of real kind of insight into the world of opticians, into the world of, I mean, he had glasses on, but I mean, there wasn't anything else that do you know what I mean? When you ask somebody for money, that really is, you are, if you ask them for money, if you're asking them to invest in you, into your idea, you really have to have the respect of sharing messages to people and giving them the respect, not just asking people for money, right? You have to give them something. You really have to give them something back. You really have to show that you deserve that investment, right?
Yeah.
That's why you see that is exactly why you see on Dragon's Den. Don't know whether you watch Dragon's Den or Shark's Tank, where people come in and everything seems kind of cool and they're sharp and they're confident, but in fact, when they dig deeper, there's no real kind of real substance to why they deserve that amount of money. And so you see a lot of the dragons or the sharks get angry, right? Because they're like, get don't come in here, ask me for money, my money, to invest in you if you haven't given me like the credibility that you deserve, right? Anyway, my first question afterwards was like, hang on a minute, like, can I just, you're quite young, 18, 19, which is cool, great idea, but why do you think you have the credibility to do this, to take this concept where it needs to be? And then he was like, he didn't really know how to answer that question. I said, well, tell me more about, how did you come up with the idea? So where did you get the idea from? He said to me, well, I mean, listen, so in my mum and dad's optician. I said, your mum and dad were opticians? Yeah, they're opticians. And I've been working in the optician for like 3 years, helping out my mum and dad every Saturday afternoon, and so you really see all these people coming in and out. You understand what the frustrations are. I said, I came up with the idea because constantly my parents were like complaining about this issue, and why is it taking up their time, and wouldn't it be just easy if we could all do this on an app like this, right? I said, well, that's it. From beginning, we need to work out how to get that in from the beginning, because credibility, certainly at the beginning, that again, that's an attention grabber, that's an interest grabber. If we can raise our credibility, then in the minds of our audience, when they're listening to us, they stick around because they know that this guy's credible. If we start listening to somebody and we automatically know there isn't any credibility, why should we listen? We don't have to listen. We've got, all of us have got hundreds of different things we could be doing when we listen, instead of listening to somebody or watching a screen, right? So we worked out how to do that. And so at the beginning, just simple phrases at the beginning, like something like, I can't remember what we did exactly, but something like, over the last couple of years working with my parents in opticians every weekend, there was something we all realized that had to change. There was something that really a frustration for both us as opticians, but more importantly for people coming in, having to have an eye test. And it was this, bang, and then we start explaining what it is. So straight away, that 18, 19-year-old, he's already got the upper hand because he understands the industry inside out. He may not know it, but he does. He knows far more than anyone else, far more than many people. And he's young, and he's got ambition, and he felt he was he had the support of his parents around him. So he's not going to give up. He's going to be an optician all his life, probably, right? So so all these little signals that we can share are really important. So going back to the original question, it's finding out why you're doing what you're doing. How did you come up with this? And they may not be in that industry, but they've certainly experienced the pain or the frustration, or somebody in their family or close to them has really experienced the pain, or they've seen it firsthand from a friend. They've experienced the pain or frustration, and so they felt impelled to try to figure out a solution, and so they've done research, or they've studied it, or they've really kind of gone into the industry. Somebody who can clearly demonstrate that they really understand a sector, an industry, or the problem, really helps us as listeners, as audience members, and more importantly as investors, to know that they will not give up on this idea, and they know why the problem's there, and they understand how to fix that problem, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, so many startups, so many founders, and I hear them, you hear them all the time as well, I'm sure. Great presentations, great pitches, but they're nothing to do. They may not be anything to do with the actual startup founder. It may not be the founder pitching, or they haven't really got to grips with that problem and experienced that problem. There's nothing more credible than somebody who's experienced a problem and knows it firsthand and felt the pain of it, right? So getting to understand why somebody's doing what they're doing, and once we have a long chat about that, and then often it's again me just asking questions to get them to give me what I need, and then once we have that, then we can build on that to start creating messages which get people to start a conversation with them. Because again, startup founders, pitches, our number one thing we want to achieve, the number one, the easiest low-hanging fruit we can get from a pitch is a conversation with somebody afterwards, enough for them to be inspired to have a chat over a coffee. It might be a 5-minute chat, it might be like a 2-minute chat, but then they exchange business cards and make an appointment with their secretary, and then they have another meeting, right? So it's all about getting a conversation, getting people to feel curious enough to go, yeah, actually there might be something there, that sounds good, I'd like to have a chat with that person, right? So that's what we're trying to achieve.
So how do you connect this bit of, you have the story, you have the presentation, the inspirational part, and then you kind of want to connect with the person in terms of the sale? Do you have any recommendations or phrases that you use that worked for you in the past, how you can, inspire people, but then also kind of take the action and make a sale, essentially?
Yeah, the sale doesn't come at the end of the pitch, at the end of the presentation. The sale never comes. It's as I say, it's trying to get people to feel like, okay, this could be good, this could be something I'm interested in, and then moving to the next stage, which is a conversation or a chat or a meeting. So instead of going back to lots of sales presentations, often we push, right? If that makes sense. We kind of, this is great because of this. This is good because of this.
Very
benefits, all these benefits, boom, 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 all the features and benefits. Dun, 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 dun. But in fact, again, going back to the emotion, bringing in emotion and getting people to feel something and feel like this could be right for them. And then just suggestion is really powerful, right? So suggesting something like at the end of a startup pitch, for example, like, so you've heard the last 5 minutes, you understand more about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and really where we want to be. If you like what you hear and you're curious, you'd like to know more, you feel this could be something for you, or someone that it could be great for. It's a really good phrase, right? So it's not just, so startup pitches, not just the people that are listening, but the people that are listening in their network. There could be somebody perfect for you. So you like what you hear, you're curious, you'd like to know more, or someone in your network that would like to know more. Let's have a coffee afterwards and let's see what we can come up with. If it's physical, if it's not physical, reach out to us over LinkedIn and let's start a conversation. Starting a conversation is isn't it? It doesn't sound, there's no pressure, there's no commitment really. The word explore is a really great phrase as well. Let's explore. Mm-hmm. So let's explore what we can come up with. Let's explore if this is right for us. Let's explore options and ideas and see what we can work on. Because when you explore something, you might come up to a dead end, right? It might be completely, or it might not work at all. But suggesting that doesn't necessarily mean that you definitely know this is going to work. And so when you say that to anybody, actually, if you're a sales call, an intro call over LinkedIn, let's explore ideas and let's discuss, is a kind of like nice way of saying to someone, okay, well, I'm interested, I'm curious about this. Again, that's a great phrase, to be curious. When you put that phrase in your last call to action somewhere, it's a good phrase to use, because when you're curious, when people are curious about you or curious about anything about you or what you're doing, we tend to like that. So if I say to you now, listen, Max, I'm really curious about, what hair gel you use. I'm looking at the hair gel. I'm looking at your hair. It looks lovely. I'm really curious about, where'd you get it? So as soon as I say that, well, I don't know whether you do feel this or not, but as soon as I say curious, you're like, well, okay, he's got a real interest in something that I have, and I'd like to help him out. Bang, if I can. Right,
That's exactly.
I'm really so I'm really curious about that painting behind you, Nina. Tell me more about it. Talk to me. Yeah, that's a great phrase as well. Instead of tell me, talk to me. Because when I say tell me, you can give me a very short phrase. Tell me. It could be like 1-2 sentences. It could be longer. But when I say talk to me about, I'm almost saying to you, give me more. Like, almost like I'm sitting down and I'm like, go ahead and talk to me. So like, there's no full stops at the end when you say, talk to me. So talk to me about the painting. So, and I'm really curious about it. So those kind of small little phrases can help people to open up more and share more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
And I think also the word curious in general, like, if someone uses that word, it does really sound like someone generally interested to learn more about whatever you're doing, what your aspirations are, or what the product is, and you want to share more. Then,
yeah,
again,
absolutely.
It goes back to what you said. It starts a conversation.
It's also getting people to share, especially on virtual calls. So when the pandemic hit, my whole all my services pretty much stopped, and then I changed to this, but I actually worked on how to do this in this box really well. So helping people to communicate, build up trust through the screen, right? So which is really tough for a lot of people, and still not that many people do it well. So the beginning, when we're having these intro calls, going back to storytelling, going back to stories and emotion, this can be a really good technique as well to get people to open up. So when you start sharing a small story, so we could start here. Let's say this was an intro call, a sales intro call, and I've already said to you, like, I'm really curious about, you know, how we can work together, and I'd love to see where that goes, and this half an hour together intro call is really, hopefully we could do that, right? And then hopefully you go yeah, and then I would say something like, you know, so just remind me where you are right now, and then you'd say somewhere, and then you'd probably ask me the same thing, where are you right now, and I'd say something, and then maybe I would say bring in a little, not a story, not a full story, but just a little bit of where I am, what I'm doing, and something emotional, right? And once I've done that, and then hopefully you're nodding as well, you're empathizing with me, and a small connection has been made, you're then more in a position to do the same, right? Or I can just ask you the same question you asked me, right? Or I can ask you, so how did you get into this then? Love to hear. And then you then share a little bit more as well. So essentially, when you share a story, sharing this emotion, you're more likely to get it back. And when you do, those bonds, you can start creating those bonds. And when you've done that, the more you make, you're more in a position later on, naturally, to connect better and potentially build up that trust quicker through this screen. And then move onto deals, right? Move on to businesses, move on to more yeses, right? So so sharing stories often gets stories back.
Yeah, sounds wonderful, Peter. I already learned so much.
Wait.
Yeah.
To talk to me about the picture behind you, just quickly. You need to answer these two questions. So think about, you're going to have to tell me the hair gel, and you're going to have to tell me very quickly, one sentence. Picture behind you, Nina.
So the picture behind me was a gift of my best friend, who owns the flat in London. She's not living here. She's renting it to me. And she gave it to me to tell me that there is still a part of her in this flat. So I should look after it, but I also should feel at home. That's the story behind it.
So every time you look at it, maybe not every time, but when you see it, it reminds you of her. Her face comes into mind, and she's kind of closer to you through that than where she physically is. Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Max, your hair gel.
Yeah, there's actually there's a cool story to it.
No way. You kidding?
Yes. For years, I've been struggling to find a product that I'm happy with. And the reason
that sounds like a commercial. You sound like somebody who's started on a hair gel commercial.
Yeah, and you know, when you have I like a matte paste, and usually what happens is, if it's not good, it gets soft, and then your hair just falls down after half a day. And I like to keep a bit of structure in it. Sounds like a sales pitch again. And then one day, a friend of mine at work had this product, and I was like, I forgot mine. Can I have yours? Because I just came from the gym. I forgot my gel. He's like, yeah, take it. And I tried it out, put it in, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for forever. So now I order it bulk and keep it here or wherever I am, always 2-3 of them, just to make sure that I never run out. And it's I love it. It's the best product I've ever had. I can't tell you the name right now, but
I wasn't expecting that. But as you were saying that, in fact, so if that was let's say you were the founder of this product, right? So just at the beginning, when you said because you actually came out with all the things that you should be saying if you were a founder, to get people to feel the pain and the emotion. So, but there was one thing that you would add if you were the founder, something like, so you have this problem, right? But probably thousands and millions of other people on the planet have the same problem, right? And so when it comes to hair, it's a really personal thing, right? And so hair products everybody's hair is different on this planet, and so there's so many hair products, and finding the right one is so difficult, and so like me, there are millions of people on this planet, guys on this planet, who are just hair just like mine, who find it difficult to get it right. Yeah. So something like that. So when you start saying, so there's so many like me, so many other people like me, right? And then so people that, let's say somebody looking at you like me right now, I don't have the same hairstyle, I don't have this problem, right? But when you say all this, I can feel like, I can feel what it feels like to have that problem.
Yeah.
Right. So getting people to feel like what it feels like is always our key, because you may have an investor, you may have people that are who want to financially be part of an idea or concept, which are nothing to do with that sector, nothing to do with that area of business, but getting people to feel like what it feels like. Another example, for example, sitting on a plane. So have you ever been delayed? You've been delayed, right? I'm sure you've been delayed many times, but have you ever actually sat, I'm sure you've sat on a plane and you've been delayed on the plane.
That's the worst.
On the tarmac. It's the worst, right? So you can imagine what that feels like. People listening to this, they can imagine what it feels like if they've never done that before. What does it feel like? It feels frustrating. It feels, you don't know whether you're going to get off or not. You're actually on a plane which actually may not be working well, and so that also starts to create potentially for some people anxiety levels which rise as well. How long are you going to be on the plane? It's kind of claustrophobic. Am I going to get off? I'm going to make it. I'm working the next day. All these emotions coming into play for somebody sitting on a plane that's delayed. Now, again, if you've never sat on a plane and been delayed, okay, many people have, but many people haven't. That's cool. By saying all those things, you can get people to feel like it feels like to be on that plane.
Yeah.
Right. So getting people to feel those emotions is always our key, whether they felt that or they haven't. Right. So in real life, yeah. So as I was listening to you talking about your hair products, it sounded very good, actually. I mean, I was convincing, wasn't it, Nina?
I'll share the link afterwards.
Please.
Lovely. Peter, one service of yours is also helping people with TEDx talks, right? So I would love to hear a little bit more about this, how you got into it and how you help people with this, and also what inspires you about TEDx talks. So 3 questions.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with the last one. So, this for many, this is like the first place we go to, or we've been to in the past to see people actually standing on stages, sharing messages with a large audience. Today there are conferences and summits and events globally all the time, everywhere, right? But years ago it wasn't. It was only like the big ones, only like big, great conferences, once a year, yearly conferences. But TEDx gave us that opportunity for all of us to, on our screens, to see and hear and feel these great messages. So these emotions, some of them are funny, some of them are sad, some of them are intriguing, but essentially this is what inspired me. Okay, over the years, it's so now it's very different than what it was, because there are so many organizers and there are so many speakers, and so if you're a TEDx speaker, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great speaker. So I mean, I constantly see on LinkedIn TEDx speakers part of their bio. It doesn't mean anything at all, really. But people are convinced that it is because it's credible, right? So if you have done a TEDx speech, a 15-minute speech, or slightly longer, let's say, or slightly shorter, that doesn't give you necessarily the credibility of being a great speaker, right, or connector. However, I started, I don't know, about 10 years ago. Somebody asked me, because I was already a presentations coach, speaker coach. Somebody in Asia actually came to me, saw me online and said, look, I need you to help me with my speech. I already have the story. It's all good. I just need someone to have a look and check it out. So they did it they did it online, and I gave them tips, and then they changed it and they did it, and then me seeing them online doing the things that I asked them to do was really like uplifting, and really felt like, wow, that's really cool. And they're clapping at the end, although that clap is not for me, but I felt a little bit of that clap was because of what I did to help somebody change, or just shift a little something, in terms of, it could be the approach, it could be the sound, the tone of their voice, it's often the messages, and arranging the messages in the right way, getting people's attention, but also, as I say, getting people's interest. So all those things come into play. And since then, I work with local TEDx organisers, local ones in the region, in the European region. Other accelerators occasionally reach out to me, and I work with them. More often than not, it's actually individuals who hire me to really help them put together their ideas and share and deliver those ideas in the right way. And remember, all of this, so although it's for a TEDx talk, which is only 15, 16, 17 minutes or so, the skills you learn there, the skills they pick up through that, helps them in their presentations, all the way through. So that's something that I'm really proud of as well, is helping them not just in that TEDx talk, but move forward in the way they're sharing their messages and connecting through what they say and how they say what they say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about sorry, Nina? What about stage fright and stuff? Is that a topic that a lot of people come to you with?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
The reason I'm asking is also when I watch TEDx talks or TED talks in general, there's two types. One are the ones that you can literally hear they've learned every word, even the jokes, every laugh is studied and transcripted. And then there's people where you really feel like they're just telling a story. And I always feel like the ones that have learned everything by heart are the ones that are actually just scared of making a mistake. And the message doesn't come across, I find sometimes. What is the kind of experience you have with that stage fright?
Yeah, I agree. But if they have that anxiety, learning it, off by heart and every single is one way to combat that. And then the next stage after that is to do more, is to do more speaking, is to realize that they don't have to always stick to every single word. But if we go back to stage fright, feeling anxiety, feeling nervous, feeling not feeling good before presenting to a crowd, to an audience, all of this is internal, right? All of this is up in here, really, isn't it? It's how we feel, or how we envisage what will happen, our emotions about this whole thing, right? So it's all up here. So if we can change how we feel about the whole thing, if we can feel better about it, then that's the key, right? I can't. Sounds like I'm a doctor of anxiety. Not at all.
You're doing
I still
well.
feel nervous. I still feel nervous, but I control it in a way that helps me, and because I've been doing this for so long, it rarely comes across. It doesn't. I guess it doesn't come across at all. But
how, Peter, quick on that. How do you control it? Do you have a certain ritual you do before presenting?
No.
Okay.
No. So if we go back, so again, it's all in the mind. It's all how we feel about stuff, and just I'm going to share with you just a few things, and I want you just to think about this, and also the people that are listening. When they get anxiety, when the anxiety, they know they have anxiety. Think about the answers to a couple of these questions that I want to share with you right now. So think about this. So think about this. Does your audience really care about you, whether you do it well, whether you do it badly, whether you mess up completely, or whether it's fantastic? Do they really care? And the answer to that is no. Your audiences don't really Their judgment of you is no more okay. Although you're on a stage or on a screen, and people, all eyes are on you, their judgment of you is no more than their judgment of many other things in their lives, right? All the things that you judge, and some of us judge more than others. That's okay, but really, it's dealing with this judgment. Dealing with this judgment of you. People don't care. When I go on so often as a host, MC, somebody who's shaping conferences, summits, 2 days, 3-4 days, Middle East, wherever, sometimes 100 people, sometimes 10,000 people, whatever it is. Does that audience really care who I am? No, they don't care. They don't. What they care about is the value I'm going to share. What they care about is how am I going to make them feel in connection with why they're there, right? So to getting them ready for the speakers, getting them ready emotionally for what's about to come, helping them make sense of really everything about the conference or summit. So they just care about the value. So they don't care about you. So their judgment of you, you got to give them value. Make them feel like they want to listen to this. No audience, you on a stage, an audience owes you nothing. An audience owes you nothing. People on this podcast right now, people that are listening to this, they don't have to listen to this. Nobody has to, they don't have, if they don't want to.
Yeah.
We have, what we're trying to do, three of us together, put something together, a conversation, some ideas, some tips. They know the title of this. They might have heard other episodes before, so they kind of know what the kind of flavor and the vibe of what they potentially could get because they've already had a few before, right? Or they might know you, and so they're intrigued. But nobody really needs to stick around. But if they do stick around, we need to give them value, or the other way around. We need to give them value to help them stick around. Right, so letting people or getting people to emotionally stick around because you're giving them value is really what's important. And again, this judgment thing, not everybody will like you, not everybody will want to listen to you, and it's okay for people not to like you, and it's okay for people not to think that you're a wonderful speaker, and it's okay for people to think that your presentation was okay. Do you know what I mean? So many of us in our heads are thinking like, we have to be wonderful and we have to like a big round of applause at the end and all these things. But in fact, we it's okay if we just focus on the less we focus on. Actually, the less messages we focus on, it's easier to hit people's kind of like in their heads, right? An audience will more likely to like one thing than if you give them 10 things. Right? So, not to say that you shouldn't give them 10 things, but again, this anxiety, all about the anxiety and trying to deal with that is in our heads, and letting people judge us. They can go ahead and judge me, right? It's okay, please do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to give you value, to give you things that you want to hear, and helping you to understand things better, and getting some real juicy ideas from this, let's say, right? This,
I
like
agree.
I say, podcast here, they don't have to like me or you.
No, exactly. At the end of the day, it's not about us. It's about the topic that we're sharing.
It's about the value,
the value in this conversation about storytelling. Someone who is about to pitch to an investor, or someone who is about to go on stage to present their company to an audience. They don't care if it comes from any us three, or if the message written down. But if they see value in it, they'll listen to it.
There's also one other thing. So in terms of the confidence and bringing down that anxiety, remember, the more you do something, it's so simple, isn't it? The more you do something, the more confident you get at it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're better at it. Usually, yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually better at it. But the more you do something in your brain, the more confident you will get, and the more confident you become, your anxiety will start to go down slightly. right? So let's say I started, I can't knit, knitting, I can't knit. I've never tried it, and I don't really want to. But the thing is, if I had to knit, if I had to create a scarf,
I want to see that one, Peter.
I have to say, I did not think you were someone who knits.
Well, looks can be deceiving. I have 2 needles just here, ready to go. So if I started knitting now, I actually would go on YouTube. I'd look at knitting tutorials for beginners. and slowly, or probably not good, take a lot of time, but I'll do it every day. If I did it every day, if I did 20 minutes or 15 minutes every day, pretty quickly, probably after 1 week, 2 weeks, but like, I'm getting the hang of this slightly. And then I keep going. My brain already tells me this is automatic, not automatic, but it's something that's a rhythm. It's a habit. It's I know that I'm not great, but I'm moving forward slowly, right? So with speaking, it's the same thing. It's like a muscle. You have to keep doing it. Keep doing it wherever you can, because if you just go straight into a big, just one TEDx talk where you've never spoken before, although you probably wouldn't get a TEDx talk if you've never spoken in public before anyway. But if you take on these big projects quite straight away without having done the work beforehand or experience beforehand, it could be quite daunting. So the more you do, the more small things you do can really help. And even if you do like a big thing, it will give you, you'll have a lot of anxiety, but the next time you do it, or the next time you do something big, you'll remember how you felt, and you'll remember that actually it's not as daunting as you think, because often it's the same with everything, isn't it? Everything that we kind of when the anxiety rises about something in the future, and the longer we have that space between when we start feeling it and we actually do it, like a long period, we build up these crazy thoughts of things that are actually not going to happen. Right, so it's the same with speaking. We get frightened about the things that actually will never happen. Potentially could happen, but they usually don't. I mean, so yeah, repetition, doing more and more and more, will build up your confidence, and that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I think also confidence will lead to better results. No. Usually it does, I would say. It can definitely help.
And if you openly critique yourself as well. So let's say I'm knitting and I'm doing it away, and then after 2 weeks I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. And then I start knitting, and then I'm like, but I'm not checking that I'm doing everything right, and I'm just like, and then I start knitting, and then like I don't know, I'm knitting a baby's little toddler's trousers or whatever, and then I end up like I've got 3 legs or something that I've got, because way before, after 2 weeks, I got a bit big-headed, and I've done I've done a wrong angle, and I've gone off for the last month and a half. I've been doing something wrong. So being open to critique yourself and hearing from others, maybe
feedback,
who have done this before. Let's say a knitting professional I go on a Zoom call with a knitting guru, and he can tell, I can look, what do you think of these? And then they look at them and they give me some advice. So that can really help. But yeah, definitely confidence. The more you do something, raises confidence, and that confidence potentially often leads to better results eventually.
God, I can't get that picture out of my head now of you knitting trousers with 3 legs.
Well,
and showing it on a Zoom.
Don't forget it.
But yeah, maybe one day we'll see those trousers.
One day.
Yeah.
Peter, one question that came up now is like, what do you think about how passion and your why feeds into learning something and building confidence and getting better at it, but actually maybe not really liking something? Because it becomes a habit, you're learning it. So in order to sustain something that you love doing, do you think you need to have a certain amount of passion for something, or a big why behind it, or what is your perspective on it?
Yeah, I mean, if you need to, what things you like, is going to drive you. So anything you like doing, like seeing, like you can do more of, right? And that's a driver. So if it's something that's stopping that, if you start feeling like it's not something you enjoy, or again, in work we have these goals, and to get to those goals, some of the things we don't like doing, right?
Yeah,
because they're tedious. Like there's lots of things as a coach, as a person who has his own business, lots of things in my work I don't like doing, like the administration, the paperwork thing. I hate it, and so, but I know that this is part and parcel of my bigger goal, part and parcel of where I need to be. Or I just hire someone else to help with that. That could be an option. But so yeah, no, you need to have that passion, and when that passion goes overall for why you're doing something, maybe you start to question, okay, maybe you need to change something, go off at an angle, do something slightly different, and always go towards follow the things you like doing. Because if so many, fortunately, I'm in a job where I'm doing what I love. I'm doing the things that I like doing. If I start not to like doing what I'm doing, I would need to change. Fortunately, I found it. For many years, I didn't find it, right? I wasn't making a career out of it, right? I wasn't living off it. I wasn't moving forward in my career from what I do now. So yeah, so it's definitely important. How do you feel? Have you hit where you want to be? Max,
I'm working on it. It's work in progress. Okay. Yeah, I would say definitely what I do at the moment I really enjoy, but there are also bigger goals in my life where I want to head to, and it's great to work on something bigger, and you follow your passion, and you have small bits outside your main job that you're really passionate about, and you build it step by step.
Yeah, Max? I also think like the passion is such a huge important piece of getting better at something, because like you said with the knitting, sorry for going back to the knitting, but maybe I'll use a different example. I'll use the example of my current situation. I've changed careers. I'm now in the filmmaking business, and we started a production company. I'm by no means a cameraman, but I love it. And at the moment, I can see how I'm constantly walking around my camera, trying new things out. I'm currently filming every day. I'm editing every day. But because I have the passion for it, I keep getting up every day and I want to do it. Whereas I think if the passion is missing, there's going to be days where I can't be asked today to film. Like I can't. But for me, it's not about like, oh, I have to film today. It's I can't wait to grab my camera and get out the house and start filming. And I think that's kind of like the same example of having passion to move forward. And yeah, so that's how I see it.
Sounds like there's a lot of curiosity there as well, right? Yes. So you're really curious about, and you're going to make mistakes, and that it might not turn out right, but with it, it's it's very similar to at art school. So, and have I lost my passion for art? Have I lost my passion for drawing, for painting? I kind of have, because I went off in a total different direction many years ago. After studying. However, going back to art school, we were it was very different from today, right? Today it's all computers and tech and everything. So we had like one computer in the whole college, right? Doing these really like simple kind of Pac-Man images, but it was literally a pencil, charcoal, and paper. Right, but the great thing about that was you could be so curious. So we were drawing all the time, drawing. But here's the thing: is if you didn't like what you saw, if you did something wrong, or if it wasn't great, or you didn't feel good about it, you could just tear up the piece of paper and chuck it away. And that's what many of our lecturers encourage us to do, right? Because it's just paper, and it's just a bit of time, and it's charcoal or pencil. And you can just chuck it away. So you can be curious. You can really explore. You can explore this creativity, right? So when you said that, it certainly reminded me of my days at doing life drawing specifically at art college. And again, something else which I thought about when we're talking about passion now. So if we transfer this to pitching, passion, showing your passion, often we're told, right, to show that passion when we pitch or when we present, yeah? Which generally is a good thing, right? Because it shows that you love what you do. It shows that you're dedicated to what you're doing. However, you can still show dedication, still show commitment without really showing that passion, or they can hear the tone of your voice in a different way. But here's the thing. So with pitching, especially in front of investors, if we share more passion, we're more likely to get a more negative response from investors. Isn't that interesting? So, and this is the studies that are behind this, right? So the less passion we show, but the more focus we show, same kind of words, if I was to say a pitch with a lot of passion in my voice, a lot of variety in my voice, a lot of, it's energy in my voice in front of an investor, and I did the same pitch, less energy, less passion, same words more or less, same ways, same sort of phrases which are designed to get people to feel something, the emotion, the stories, everything connected. I have more chance to start a conversation with an investor with less passion than with more passion, because the passion, interestingly enough, the impact, the passion that we share in the voice, certainly, it almost shows us that, or has a psychological signal that perhaps we're not as in control as we should be. Think about this. So if we think about presidents, we think about people of high stature, people of high status, people of high wealth, we could say as well, let's say. Well, no, not necessarily wealth. Wealth, put that aside. Status, right? High credibility, which could be both. We tend to think of people that are really in control, that don't show a lot of emotion, right? Presidents, do they show a lot of emotion? Not really.
No.
Or royalty, not really. Or CEOs of large companies, not really. It's all kind of focused and sometimes a bit stale, yeah. But it's you don't have that emotion in there. As soon as you start showing emotion, fortunately or unfortunately, whatever way you look at it, investors, certainly in the pitching world, investors tend to see this or feel as if this potentially could be a signal of somebody that's not as in control as they could be, which right, or well, actually it's quite wrong, really, because it doesn't mean that they are. And if we could, that opens up a whole new area, let's say with women pitchers, right? So we hear all the time, so the Prime Minister of New Zealand sharing her emotion, sharing how she's feeling, right? It's all good, but certainly getting criticised a lot for it, and almost criticised because it doesn't show that she's in control, as in control as she could be for somebody of her status, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting,
at
the
that
balance.
stage, vulnerability is kind of like seen as a weakness.
But it's a really good idea, really good thing to remember for pitching. If you have investors in front of you and you're pitching, if you're thinking about to show more passion or less passion, show less passion. Yeah, absolutely.
That's super interesting. I would have actually thought it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought someone who has passion and can show it, you see like the fire, they're burning for an idea.
But here's the thing: you can still show that passion without, let's say, without raising your voice or loudening your voice or bigger expressions. You can still be just as focused. Share, and the words can kind of drive that passion. The words that you say can show people that you are committed and dedicated to what you're doing.
So is that also like related to like body language then? I'm just thinking
body language is the same thing, yeah. What people see and what people hear. So if I was again moving around, it just shows that you're slightly. It could show that you're slightly less control. So let's take a TEDx talk, presentation, a startup pitch, all the same. At the beginning, this is one tip, a really strong tip. At the beginning, you need to stay still. You need to keep calm, and don't share a lot of movement, because at the beginning, that's the time where people are judging you the most. They're making their mind up whether you're credible, whether they like you, trust you, whether you're in control. So you can come out and you stay still, 2 feet, don't move, and you share your messages. The first couple of sentences, staying still can really, it almost like shows that you're fully in control of this whole thing, right? So, and then afterwards move, then you can move, right? But certainly at the beginning, get a front foot and help the audience trust you quicker and bring up your credibility quicker by staying still. Upper body movement is okay, but keep your legs standing
like
still. Rooted. That's right. Staying still.
Yeah, I guess if you're constantly moving around, it creates that feeling of like that person is nervous. He might not be 100% sure about what he's talking about. Whereas if you're like still, it's like, okay, that guy. It shows confidence, right? If you can stand still and talk.
Yeah, and when we're nervous and when we have that anxiety, it comes out usually 2 areas. Mainly, it comes out through our voice, what people hear, because we can hear it straight away. Our voices tell us so much, right?
Yeah.
And people can hear how we're feeling at that time, whether it's slightly croaky or whether we're getting enough air inside, which is a signal of whether we have anxiety or not. And the other area is our body movement. So body movements, again, after this, next time you watch a TEDx talk, have a look at the beginning. See how many people are moving a lot. Okay, although they're on the spot, or any presentation really, see how many people are moving a lot. That is often the energy they have inside them that they're just letting out. Doesn't mean that they're bad speakers or anything like that at all. It's just they haven't thought about controlling that energy at the beginning and then slowly letting it out. If you let it out at the beginning, doesn't necessarily mean that people will give you the credibility that you deserve.
Nina, so nice to have you back.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Welcome back.
It's okay.
Knitting.
I just took a break. Exactly.
How was the beginners knitting for beginners? How was episode 1?
Episode 1 was amazing. Thank you for actually sharing that. So I had the chance, to just pop out and have a look. My last, or not last question, but one thing I also would love to hear from you, Peter, is because you shared so much value about public speaking, confidence, how you coach, and what you have done in the past. What is your personal story behind it? Like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, no, I think if we go back, I didn't have these skills that I have now, because they're skills. Remember, they're skills. So I learned these skills. You can learn these skills. Nina, Max, anyone listening to this can learn. They're transferable learnable skills, right? Which is great to hear, right? So you don't have to
that's
be...
That's the good news.
That's great news. You don't have to be like a sociable, really kind of outgoing, extrovert, sociable person to be a really good speaker or to be a really good MC host. Am I an extrovert? I don't actually know. I don't think I am, and I never have been. And so I go back, my art school days, I wasn't a very, very introvert actually.
Yeah.
And so these things that I do now, I remember myself back then, it wasn't like this at all. And so I wish I had someone to help me then to sort of, it took me a long time, many, many years to get where I am right now. But that could have been a lot shorter if I had someone to tell me, well, actually, you can do these things. You can, do these behaviors that you can do when you're on a stage presenting to a group of people to try to influence them to buy from you or start to trust you at least, or get, they buy into a message. if somebody had told me that or shared some ideas on that when I was younger, I would have got there a lot quicker. So I suppose I always feel like I'm sort of grateful for where I am right now, and I can help people that are in my same position as I was maybe years ago, feeling anxiety and not feeling great about speaking in public, but also this whole idea of the psychology side of storytelling, of persuasion, of connection. So it's very, very, very complex, and I'm really intrigued. I'm fascinated by all of this, and I'm constantly learning new little tricks and new ideas, and as someone who's a host and shaping these stages, these global stages, so I'm constantly I'm still in front of large crowds, not just saying it and not just saying all these things, but I'm actually doing the things that I'm saying, I've been doing the things that I've been saying for years, right? So I'm constantly trying to get better. And so I see a lot of speakers. I see a lot of great speakers, a lot of good speakers, a lot of really bad ones, right? So the whole bunch, and I'm still learning from them as well. So yeah, I suppose there's this fascination with human behavior, which is what a lot of us have. I've kind of like channeled it into how we present ideas to crowds, to get a connection, and to ultimately in business certainly get an outcome, which is an action of some kind.
Yeah. And what makes a good presenter? What is your perspective on it? If you have to nail it down into a few facts, what do you think?
$1 million question.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What makes a good presenter? I mean, when you say that, there's so many presenters that we all know that are good, and they're all different, and all have their own style. Here's something as well. Remember, confidence usually is appealing. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that a good presenter has a lot of confidence. A good presenter doesn't need a lot of confidence. A good presenter, if we can exchange that word confidence with the right words, with connection, with stories, let's say, with impact, all those words to replace confidence, you can still be a good speaker. You can still be a good speaker. At the end of the day is what the audience thinks, right? It's what an audience at that moment thinks and feels and gets. If that audience is getting the value they need, if that audience is getting the impact and the value from what they've heard, whether it makes them change something drastic, whether it makes them change a small shift in what they're doing, whether it encourages them to click on a website and check something out, whether it encourages them to start a conversation as an investor with a startup, or whether it simply, encourages them to buy something from them, right?
Yeah.
Then that's the proof of a good speaker. What is a good speaker? What's the proof of a good speaker? If we're talking business, then clearly it's that outcome of some kind, that action. If we're talking stand-up comedy, right? It's making people feel good and laugh, right? Isn't it? That's the outcome there. If it's a TEDx talk, it could be a mixture of those things. It could be nothing at all, but just again, making people reflect and remember, right? So many things make a good speaker. What would tell me a couple of things? What for you stands out? What would you say? Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to start because I think very similar to you. I think there's not one version of a good speaker. I think the most important thing is that you bring value to the audience. I think that's the number one thing. And if the audience feels like I walked into this room, this person told me information, story, whatever it is, and I walk out with more than I came in, or value, then that's a good speaker to me. And I've watched TED Talks where I felt like the person is not necessarily a good speaker, but the topic they're talking about, that really interests me, and I've learned something. And then that for me was a good good speech rather than a speaker.
Yeah.
And maybe also goes back to what you said earlier, which is the audience doesn't really care about you. As long as you add the value and they take something away from it or they learn something, then that's a good speaker. Understanding your audience.
Yeah.
Nina.
I guess for me would be value, yes, is very important, but often you also hear similar things from different speakers, just in a different way, how they deliver the message, but the outcome is the same. So for me, it would be more the confidence, the energy, the aura as well they bring on stage. Like, can I really connect with this person? Do I really feel them? And also the visuals. So I find PowerPoint presentations so out, like in the sense of like 5 bullet points or a lot of text. I think if you have one word, like big visuals that speaks for the message, that's amazing. If you can play a little bit around in a modern style with like the visuals you're using, also your body language, how do you stand, how do you speak, where do you put your hands, like are you constantly moving or are you more like standing still and trying to really get to an emotional point with the audience? I think this is where I usually get very much catched in the moment.
Yeah, so we're all of us. We're all different in terms of for what makes a good, strong speaker. All those elements are all valid, and it would sway slightly either side of all those messages that you shared, both of you, as to what a good speaker is. And so there are many things that can influence us to nail down a good speaker. And again, Max, when you mentioned that there are speakers that maybe not as confident or maybe not as energetic, but still they're sharing really strong messages, that also goes on the other side. So again, I see a lot of speakers that are like professional speakers, right? And they do it for a living, they get paid for it, and they travel a lot, and in their heads they are professional speakers naturally, and that's their career and that's what they do, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're great, because often the confidence and the body language and the tone of voice, and that's all in the right place. That's all good, right? But you can still, confidence at the end of the day can never that kind of delivery, all those good things about delivery, can never be as strong as the actual content, as the actual the messages you're sharing when you're speaking. And so too often I see the other way around, where people are confident and looking good and they're slick and they sound good and they're smiling and it's all good, right? So you see photographs of them and they look great, right? It's cool. But when if you were actually an audience member and listening to their 20 minutes, 25 minute speech, nothing necessarily new. You know what I mean? So it's you always have to, you're only as good as your last speech. You're only as good as you are on that day, there and then. Your whole, like I do lots of events and lots of emceeing and lots of hosting. If I was to think to myself, that I'm great and I'm going to walk out there, everyone's going to love me and everyone's going to think I'm cool, I'm like completely kidding myself. Nobody cares. My role is to get people excited, to get people feeling good. So I have to think about, this event that I'm doing, wherever it is in the world. This is and for many, often it is the first time they see me, but I have to give value. I have to make sure that people know that I'm giving them the value that they deserve and they need, right? I should never think of myself as a really great speaker. And so again, that's the thing as well. Ego, that comes across really, people can feel that straight away, right? So and when we speak and when we move and when we're on stage, signals are coming out constantly. And so often I see higher egos than there's a lot of egos in the speaking world. Their egos are far too high, you know. Whereas other speakers, which are, you know, a lot quieter, or I'll have a chat with them before, I can just, you know, they're lower expectations, and then when they go on stage, somehow they connect and they do amazing work, and the content is great. So almost I could not spot them a mile away, but you can feel that often the ones that have this great impression of themselves off stage, when they're on stage, it's not as strong. Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite speaker, or do you have someone you admire, you look up to, and say like, this is an exceptional speaker?
Yeah, lots. I mean, there's loads of people. I mean, we have it comes to mind right now. We have a mutual friend, David Shing.
David.
And I'm lucky enough to meet him different events around the world every year or 2 years or so, at a different event in the Middle East or wherever, in Europe or Asia, I don't know. And it's always good to see him, and he has less than 20 minutes often, and it's always sharp, strong. And the thing I love about him is you know, he doesn't think he's great. He is great, definitely, and people who know him will agree. But you know, he knows he's not. He's got, you know, he's not. He knows that people will only listen to him if he's going to give value, and he does that every time. So yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Very, very, very special.
Yeah.
In terms of his presenting style as well.
I haven't had the chance to hear him yet, but I only heard good things. So
you should go on YouTube, have a look at some of the stuff. I mean, presentations are really cool and simple, and his style is very it's quick, and it's playing with our brains to like keep thinking and keep almost like overwhelming us with ideas, which again, you think about it, it's actually not that strategy is often not a good thing, because our brain needs time to absorb. But the way he does it, and the way in a way that they're very sharp ideas. When he's finished his presentation, way after, then you start to think about those ideas. Yeah. Right. So he does it. He actually manages to hit it on the head. He nails it really, really well in terms of the rhythm, and in terms of what people feel and what people see. And he's a funny guy as well. He's ready to play. Yeah, he's playful. That's another thing as well. Being playful is such a good skill to have as a speaker and as a presenter, as an MC certainly as well. Being spontaneous and accepting things will change, and going with the flow, having your agenda but going with what's around you is always a good thing, and he manages to do that all the time. Yeah,
he's great. When I met him last year in Barcelona, I had a chat with him after, because exactly what you said, I think those quick action points, but also the visuals he used, was literally the first time I saw that ever in my life. That's why I was so fascinated, and I had a chat with him after. He's very special. Cool, Peter. In order to close this, we would love to draw a conversation card. Max, do you want to do it today, or should I do it?
You do it, please.
Okay.
It's your turn this time.
Do you like Stephen Bartlett, Peter?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great.
He's actually also a great speaker.
Because we have these conversation cards, and we always like take out one of those at the end of a podcast, so our guest can answer it.
Let's see what comes up. Have you seen him live? I would love to see him live. Nina has. I think he's a great speaker, the way he gets the message across.
No, so he was at so I do this big tech event biggest one in the world actually, in Riyadh, called Leap. And he was there. I passed him, and I saw him live, but I didn't chat with him. Yeah.
So, question: are you ready?
So these are what are these questions? Quick questions.
Yeah, they're like conversation cards from basically his podcast guests.
Okay.
What do you promised to do to make our world a better place?
What do I promise to make this world a better place to do? What do I promise to do to make this world a better place? I mean, that's a big question for such a small man like me. Apart from my knitting that I hope to like revolutionize and help people, it could be a thing actually. Knitting could be great for so many people. I guess it's therapeutic and actually creative. So apart from that, you know, helping people to deal with that anxiety, helping people to feel like actually it's okay. You can share messages. The things that are holding us back. So many things hold us back every day in terms of our anxiety and fear in all different aspects of our lives, right? My one that I work with, that I focus on in the work I do is the speaking part, helping people to speak in front of a crowd and reduce that anxiety that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. That's so true. And I also maybe to close off with it, I think it's great what you do, because what you contribute to this world is that you give people that might have great ideas but don't know how to get them into the world. You're the one that kind of transforms their ideas into pitches that they can actually go out there and get the investment to impact the world, right? So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, Peter.
And thanks for taking the time. It's
welcome.
Very insightful. I love storytelling, so I was very curious to learn more from you today, and I definitely have. And I hope our listeners can take something away from this for their own journey, which is always what we try to achieve with this.
Hope so.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Peter, for your time, also for the work you do, and for your dedication, and that you were open to have the conversation with us. It means a lot to us. So thank you, and for our listeners, I would say if you want to find out more about Peter, you can check out our show notes. And hope to speak to you soon.
I hope so. Hope we can do this again sometime.
For
Absolutely.
sure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.